You might need something simple like a contact form or something more advanced like a multi-step lead generation form with payment options, a signature field, calculations, and the ability to export to PDF. Whatever your needs are, you definitely do need forms of some kind on your website. If you're building with WordPress, that means you need a plugin. Now, there are no shortage of form builder plugins for WordPress, and some of them are even available for free. When you install them on your website, you think it's going to be great, and you very quickly learn that if you want to actually use the tool in the manner that you need, you've got to upgrade to the very expensive paid version. Now, in general, I don't have a problem with paid plugins, but let's be honest, form technology is not exactly groundbreaking at this point, and I don't want to be spending hundreds of dollars per year on a contact form on my website. That seems a little ridiculous. Luckily, I've got the solution. Bitform is available as a lifetime deal over at AppSumo, and if you're running under 5 websites, you can get lifetime access for just $79. And for all of my service providers out there, you can get unlimited websites for $158. That's just $142 for AppSumo Plus members. Now, through the rest of this video, I'm going to show you all of the features in this tool so you can decide if it's a good fit for your business. You should know that both plans include all of the features, so really you're just deciding how many websites you want to be able to add forms to. If you want to grab this tool, by the way, I've got a link in the description. If you click on that before making a purchase, it does help out the channel. Here's my website. I've already got Bitform Pro installed. There is a free version, but much like the other tools I mentioned, it's limited in its feature set, but you can go ahead and try it out and see if it's a good fit before making a purchase. I do want to shout out Bitform here. They are sponsoring today's video, and they did give me this tool for free so that I could demonstrate all of the features for you. So let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to create our first form, hit that button, and it takes me into their template selection process here. Now, the first thing you might notice is they all look fairly similar at a glance. Like if I just look at this wide-eyed, they all look like they're kind of the same form, just with a few different fields or different options. And that's largely because they've got the same styling applied. Don't let that worry you. You can customize this with your own colors and style choices. I'll show you exactly how to do that. I do recommend starting off with a template because it's just a good way to get things up and running quickly. So if you're adding a contact form, why not start with one of their contact form templates? You can always add in additional fields later. For now, I'm going to break that advice and just start blank so we can see the tool without anything cluttering our view. Okay, so here is my blank form. The one thing you'll notice is there is a submit button on the builder. You can't have a form without a submit button. In fact, if I try to get rid of this right now by clicking on the trash can icon and I hit delete, it's gonna say, nope, you can't do it. You have to have a submit button. Everything else, all of the other fields you add, that is up to you. The fields, by the way, are all listed over here to the left. I can scroll through and find one that I like and just drop it onto the canvas. I'm going to start off with a very simple first name field, drop it in, and I'll add a last name field as well. How about an email? And you can see that I'm very quickly getting into building out a complete contact form. I think all that's really left is a text field. I'm going to go with this multi-line text here. Of course, I can resize everything to make it fit a little bit better. Now, one thing you need to know is that the form is not going to be this wide if I put it on my website right now. It's going to be automatically responsive, so it'll fit whatever container you place it in. So that's a very important thing to understand. I need the submit button at the bottom because anything else would be crazy. I want the first name and last name to be 50% each. So I can go ahead and resize each of these fields by just clicking on the handlebars over here. And the width of this view is basically like 60 dots. So I can just drag it over until I get to 30. And you can see over first name, you'll see a little indicator. It says W30. That's going to tell me my width is 30. That's about 50%. I'll do the same thing here for the last name field. Just drag that over. It's going to kind of snap when I get there. And then I can go ahead and move it right up alongside of the first name field. And I'm already looking pretty good here. Okay, so all of my fields are over here to the left, like we already talked about. We'll go into more of the fields later on. Then over to the right, I've got the field settings. This is where I can change how the field functions, basically. So I can click on, let's say, the first name field here. Now I'm going to be editing the settings for that. I could give it a name if I wanted, like first name. Now, right now it has a label as well as placeholder text. I don't really like having both, but I also don't like to get rid of the placeholder text because as soon as you start typing in it, you don't know what that field was for. So I'm gonna go ahead and change the placeholder text rather than being redundant. I'll just say Dave so that people say, okay, this is where I type my name and this is the format that I expect it in. So all of the normal settings that you'd expect to find are here. Like for example, if I want to require the email address, I'll just simply click on the email field and they'll go ahead and toggle this on. Automatically, it gives me the obligatory asterisk next to the title here so that I know that that is a required field as a user. I'll have to fill it out. Now I can turn that off if I'd like. There is a toggle switch here to turn off the asterisk symbol. I do recommend adding in something so that people know that it's a required field. Otherwise, they'll get an error message at the end and they'll get frustrated not thinking they had to fill that out. So go ahead and add in the asterisk. It's kind of standard practice, but if you like to customize it, you can do that as well. All right, I'm generally happy with my form here. At least all of the content is what I want, but I'd like to change how it looks a little bit. So there's a few different ways to approach this. Instead of being on this pencil icon over to the right, I can click on the paintbrush icon, which takes me into the different themes that are available. So my options are the default theme, which we're currently using, or the Atlassian theme. If I turn this on, you can see it has a nice professional look to it, not quite as round as the Bitform theme. You'll see all of the fields kind of get squared off, a little bit darker. I've seen this look quite a bit around the web, and I don't mind it personally. I can also turn off all of the CSS and just kind of start from scratch if I like. Now, don't worry, we can customize all three of these options. Let's start by just going back to our original theme, the Bitform default, and then click on the pencil icon here. And I could do something as simple as just change the button color. That's going to be the accent color here. And let's go ahead and make this more of a red color. And you can see just how easy that is. Now we could also change the background color for the theme, the font color, the field background color. That was like how the Atlassian field had everything maybe a little bit darker gray. So we could kind of start to emulate that. We've got some border options over here. When you click this, it pops open these additional options. I'm going to make the border radius a little bit smaller. I think that looks pretty good right there. And the actual border itself, I'm going to make that a little bit darker. All right, I'm starting to really like how this looks. So that's how we can style the entire form all at once. And that's probably what you're going to do the majority of the time. But each individual field can have its own style options as well. So let's say I wanted, for some reason, this last name field to look a little bit different. I can click on this little paintbrush, and then over here, I can change things like the accent color. You notice the accent color is showing up when I hover. So maybe for this one, I want it to be a purplish type of color, and now it's purple here, but it's red over here. Or maybe I wanted to change the border radius on this field alone. I can make it have a completely square field, whereas the other ones are rounded. I think you know that that's generally not how things are done, but there might be a circumstance where you really want to call attention to a particular field, and changing its style is one way to do that. Okay, so if I'm happy with everything here, I've got the colors that I want, the style is exactly as I like, I can go ahead and publish this form. Now, when I go ahead and hit update here, it's gonna kind of save the form, and before I publish it, I can preview it. This is a really nice part of Bitform. I really like this. I can have it fill out some dummy data so I get a submission, and I can see what the error messages might look like, or the success messages in that case. I can resize it to see how it'll respond in mobile responsive situations. So I can see right there, it kind of breaks the 50% as I move down to a mobile view. Everything looks really good, and I don't have to go through the trouble of adding it to my page and seeing what it's going to look like over there. At bare minimum, it gives me an extra troubleshooting point to say, well, here's what the CSS is doing inside of Bitform. And if something's breaking on the front end when I actually put it on the page that I want, well, there's something else going on, and it's not Bitform itself. So now that I've tested everything and I'm ready to go, I can simply hit the publish button, which gives me my short code that I can add to any page builder that I might be using. Just drop that code in and it's going to render perfectly. So for example, here is the contact page on this website. I'm going to edit the page. And then in this column over here, I'm going to add in a shortcode field, paste in my shortcode that I got from Bitform, hit save, and let's view the page. And there you go. I've got my form. It looks really good. I might change the button color to match the website a little bit better, but otherwise I'm very happy with the outcome. So now that my form is live on my website, the next thing I'm going to want to check is the submissions. What are people submitting through the contact form? Well, it's going to live right up here in this tab called Entries, where I can see a list of the entries and I can click on them. This is the one that I did in the dummy data inside of the preview, and I can see everything here in terms of notes, PDF downloads, when it was submitted, basically all of the info you'll want to know. Now, in addition to just viewing the submissions right on the web, you'll probably also want to get some kind of an email notification, either for yourself or if you're doing this on behalf of clients, they might need to know there is a lead generated on their website that they need to follow up on. So let's go ahead and set up some email notifications. That's right over here under settings and then email templates. I'll just add a new template. By default, it just adds in all of the data from the form. So I don't really need to do anything other than add in the title of the email and who I want it to go to. So I just went ahead here and I gave the template a name. I called it admin notification, and I've given it the subject line of new form submission. And then for the body, it's just going to go ahead and send all of the data. If I just wanted, let's say, the email address, I could go into the form fields here and just pull out specifically that field. But for now, I think everything is good. I'm going to hit save template. Okay, I've got my template created here. I could add another template, by the way, if I wanted to send a confirmation message to the person who filled out the form. Very common thing to do, a little success message. Hey, we've received your submission. We'll get back to you shortly. But for now, I'm going to stick with the idea that we're notifying the owner of the business that they've got a new lead. So to do this, I'm going to go under Conditional Logic and I'll add in some conditional logic. Now I've already got an option here. This is to just show the success message. I could certainly modify this one to include the email, but I like to have everything separate here. So I'm going to say send email to admin. And then let's open this up with the disclosure triangle. And then essentially what we're going to do is on form submission, we are always going to send an email notification. So I'll turn off success message here and I will choose my template, the admin notification. And here I could simply add in my admin user to receive the message. Quick note here, you might be tempted to set the from email address to be from the person submitting the email, but don't do that because it will likely end up in your spam. Instead, set it to be from your admin user and set the reply to be the email field. That way, when you receive the notification email and you hit reply, it's going to go back to the lead who submitted the form, but you're not inadvertently spoofing their email address when you're sending off the notification. That's a mistake I've seen numerous clients make over the years, so I wanted to call that out. Always send your forms from your own domain. I do want to get back into the builder so I can show you some more of the power features here inside of Bitforms, things like multi-step forms, payments, signatures, PDF, that sort of thing. But since we're already in our forms settings, I'm going to show you the rest of the settings first, and then we'll dip back into the builder before we wrap up the video. So form settings, this is going to be unique to the form that we are working on. There is a general settings area as well, but right now we're inside of the form settings. So here are a bunch of toggle switches where we can essentially make our form more secure, make sure that people are actually filling it out the number of times we want them to, and also integrating with things like Google Ads to make sure that we're tracking conversion data properly. Some nice features that Bitform includes right out of the box is like that limit form submission period to schedule your form submissions, as well as submission limits. So this is an add-on a lot of plugins charge for, so it's cool to see this bundled right in. Maybe you want someone to only be able to submit a form, I don't know, 5 times in total because there's a monthly check-in and they need to fill it out more than once, but not just all of them at once. Well, you can go ahead and configure that here. So I can do once per month. All right, great. Everything's set up so that they can do their monthly check-in. If they try to check in too early, they'll get a notice that they can't do it until it resets. Now, to be clear, you'd want to turn it on limit by user per month and not total submission count. So that would be the proper setting for the scenario I just gave you. So after form settings, we've got confirmation. So we can show a success message or we can redirect to a specific page. Maybe you've got a custom thank you page you've built. You want to redirect to that. Very easy to do so. We've seen conditional logic and email templates already. We've got our integrations here. This tool integrates with a ton of other products, and they actually have their very own Zapier-esque plugin called BitFlows. Here's a quick look at Bitflows. You can see you can build out a full-on N8N Zapier style flow here to really automate your data exactly as you need. So if you want to notify multiple people, send that information to a database, integrate with a third-party tool, you can certainly do it here inside of Bitflows. This is not included in the LTD, but they do have their own lifetime deal right on their website. So if you want to check this out, it's a really good option. I'm open to making dedicated videos on Bitflows. So if that's interesting to you, definitely drop me a comment down below. By the way, if you happen to watch this video after the AppSumo lifetime deal is over, they also offer Bitform as a lifetime deal on their website. It's currently not quite as good a deal as getting it through AppSumo, but if it's expired, that is certainly an option to consider. Bitform also has form abandonment. You've probably heard of cart abandonment, where someone starts to check out and then you capture their email address, send them an enticing offer to go ahead and finish their purchase. Well, you can do the same things with forms, which is really cool. I don't know that I've seen this on a lot of other form builders. So go ahead and turn this on. It's going to start to save their draft as soon as they fill out the form. Really nice idea. Then you can create some conditional logic so that if someone doesn't complete the form but leaves their email address, you could reach out to them to find out if they were having any trouble. Of course, set an appropriate delay so you're not irritating people as they're actually filling out the form. And if you feel like that is creepy and an invasion of privacy, well, you can show a little message here to let people know that your information is saved on the server as you enter it. I think that is the moral thing to do, so I recommend turning that on. The next option down is data views and entry. This is a feature that is in beta, and I don't have a ton of experience with it quite yet, but I like the concept. So the idea here is that if you want people to be able to go in and edit their own data submissions, you can do that. In fact, you could even set it up so that people could log in and edit other people's data. There might be a use case out there. You can go ahead and turn this on. So currently it's going to allow roles to view their own entries, but you could also allow roles to view others' entries. So all logged in users will be able to view their own entries, but maybe I want them to be able to check out other people's entries because you're creating some kind of a profile or something and you want to be able to set that up. You could choose all logged in users, just turn this on, and that would then become available. Again, this is on a form by form basis. This is not a system-wide setting, so you'd want to do it on select forms only. So to be clear, we've got two options up here. The first one is to view form entries, and the second one is to edit form entries. And you can set those up independently so that privacy is maintained as users would expect. The next option down is the ever popular conversational form. Now, I've got to say that clients love the idea of conversational forms. As a user, I'm not so impressed by it. Maybe I'm a jaded technologist, but I think conversational forms often slow down the process a little bit rather than just seeing a nice block of text. But you know what these are, right? These are the type form style conversational forms. Here, we get a little preview. As soon as I turn this on, I can change the theme settings. Let's go ahead and fill this out. I can just try it out. My name is Dave. This is our form that we created throughout this video. I can press return. My last name is Swift, my email address, enter that in here. And then finally, I've got my multi-line text, which would be like my form submission. This is a good looking form. All right, this is awesome. This feature works really well. I personally don't prefer conversational forms, but I add them all the time because clients really love how they look. They're very clean and simple and not techy at all. There are a lot of options to customize the look of our conversational form. We've got our conversational step settings over here, as well as our navigation settings. You might notice the powered by Bitform option over here. If you don't like that, you can certainly turn it off with the show branding toggle. Now, my update didn't happen in real time here, but if I hit update, it goes away. Colors and everything are easy to configure. So I'm gonna change this to a red color, hit update, and now I've got a red button. In terms of actually using the conversational forms, it couldn't be easier. They add a dedicated URL for you. So just copy this to your clipboard, open it up in a new tab, and you're ready to go. Now, I have gone ahead and turned off conversational forms for now as we redirect our attention over to the next option, which are landing pages. I like landing page forms. I think this is a superior option for most people over conversational forms. At least it's a lot more utilitarian, maybe not as beautiful, but the idea here is simple. Let's say you're accepting applications for something or running a contest and you want to have a dedicated URL to share your form, but you don't want to go to the trouble of actually creating a brand new page for your website. Simply create your form, go under the form settings, and then under landing form, toggle this on. You can add your own custom URL, a very nice touch, something other form builders I've seen lack. You can't add a custom URL. Just be careful when you do this to choose a unique URL. Don't conflict with anything else existing on your website or you'll run into issues, obviously. Add in your page title and off you go. You've got a direct link that you can share. If you want to put this on another website, let's say it's not running WordPress, well, you can simply add an HTML embed code. So nice touch there. We've got styling options over here to the right, but I'm going to leave everything as default and show you what it looks like. So here you go. It's just a plain page with my form. Now, if I built my form with the intent of having it on its own landing page, I might do something like add in a title at the top and maybe an explanation of what I was trying to accomplish. Let me show you how to do that quickly. So we'll just go back into our builder here. I've got a title option. I can drop that at the top, move things around here. I'll add in a title like job application, contest giveaway, whatever you like. Now, maybe you want to add in some text underneath your title here, like instructions on how long form submissions will be open, what you're looking for, things like that. Well, you can go ahead and turn on the subtitle right over here. Just toggle this on. I recommend setting the HTML tag to be paragraph and then simply enter in your details. You do have some alignment options for your subtitle, so we can make this centered, right aligned, or left aligned, but I've found that getting things to look better when they're larger blocks of text, I just like to use a dedicated separate title field, and I'll just turn off the subtitle. And then right here, I can do the same thing I did before, just make this a paragraph field, and then I can get by with a lot longer text if I need elaborate instructions. So a couple different options here, both get you the same results. A few more settings to get through before we get back to the builder and see those more advanced field options. Next up is PDF templates. So after someone fills out a form, you can send them a PDF with details of their form submission. It's gonna be really useful if you're doing sort of calculations or certifications via your forms. Have a certification go out via email. That'd be automated, very simple to set up. So we'll create a PDF template here, add a new template, give it a title, choose which fields you'd like inside of the PDF. Basically, everything you see here will become the PDF for this form. So feel free to add in your branding. You can add images here, no problem. So under insert, you can add an image, a link, media, or add from your existing media library. I'm gonna grab my Server Savant logo, just position this, maybe resize it a little bit here. We'll center align it, and then I could choose whatever form data I want to display in the email. So by default, I've got all data, but like we saw before, I can choose particular fields that I wanna add in, develop your certificate however you'd like to see it, and then you can go ahead and give your PDF file a name, set a password, allow this to be downloaded by all users or only the logged in user, give the template a name, and we're basically ready to go here. I'll hit update template. Now the only step that's left here is to connect this up to the email that's being sent off. So we saw our email template that we created before. I need to have conditional logic to send that off. So let's go ahead and add that step back in. We'll do this on form submission, and we will always send the PDF, although you could do conditional logic here. Maybe if they reached a certain calculation to essentially pass the quiz, that's when they receive the PDF. But for now, I'll set it to be always, and we will do an email notification, and the PDF attachment template is right here so that my PDF goes out with the correct format. The next option is for double opt-in, so you can essentially get permission to continue emailing someone, very much like you would do with an email autoresponder. So we can turn on double opt-in, set the settings how you need, and you're good to go there. And the final option is WP Auth, as in WP authentication. That's right, you can use your bit form as a login form, as a user registration form, even a password reset form. Very, very cool stuff here. So simply turn the type of form on that you want this one to be. So let's say my contact form was actually a login form. I can enable this and I just have to map everything to the WordPress fields. So I'm going to have my email address be the username or email address. The password, I'm going to need to have a password here. So maybe I'll just make that be the last name for now, although you definitely would want to do better than this. And then the remember me checkbox, I need to create a checkbox for that so that people could be remembered when they log back in. You can even set a redirect page after they log in. So this is really a nice full-featured way to build your own login page for your WordPress website. And on the security front, if you're thinking this doesn't sound very secure, don't worry. Any login, forgot password, or reset passwords for any of these enabled features will not be saved in the WordPress database. All right, so that is it for our form settings. Like I mentioned before, there's still a global settings page with things like your general settings, reCAPTCHA authentication. So you can authenticate with Turnstile, the one I like to recommend. We can set up our payment options here. We're gonna check this out later on, but we do need to integrate with PayPal, Razorpay, Stripe, or Molly if we wanna accept payments. There is an integration section over here where we can see all of the available integrations system-wide to make those available on a form-by-form basis. We've got our Google Ads authentication if you want to connect up to Google Ads. You can even set up SMTP. So if you don't have a dedicated SMTP plugin on your website, what are you doing? But they thankfully built one in here. You can simply add it, connect up to your SMTP host, and you'll be able to send off those emails in a way that are actually delivered to the inbox. In terms of the layout of the PDFs that we were generating in that previous step, you can change those here. It is available to switch out on a form by form basis, but we've got some global settings, so paper size, orientation, text direction, things like that. And you know, why not? You can even add your own custom post types inside of this plugin. So if you want to get things a little bit more organized on your WordPress plugin, but you don't want to go ahead and add that other custom post type editor, well, there's one built into your form plugin. And on top of that, there's an API section here. So if you need to integrate with other tools in a way that connects directly to their API, you can click right over here and get your own API key to do so. They do have really good documentation for the Bitform API. So go ahead and read through this if it's interesting to you, or just copy and paste it into your favorite LLM. All right, let's get back into our builder and look at some more advanced features here. First up is multi-step forms. Now my form right here is pretty simple. It's just a contact form essentially, but let's say I had a lot more questions to ask. Sure, I could continue to drag and drop additional questions here, but you know what? It's going to get a little bit fatiguing. We've got drop downs, we've got checkboxes. Maybe I want to ask someone what country they're in. There's a ton of different options. I might need to gather information from people. So let's do this in a way that is a little bit more palatable. Instead of having everything on one single page, I can add in a multi-step form. I'll just click right up here to choose step number 2. I can do this as many times as I like. It automatically adds a progress bar and a detailed step counter up here. Of course, I can modify these things. I can turn them off altogether if I don't want them. Very easy to do so, just a toggle switch. We can turn off individual components as well and even style them to be exactly as we like. Like maybe I don't want the icon up there or I want to change the icon. Very easy to do so. For now, I'm going to go back to page 1 and let's start to organize our form. So let's say this text field here was another question. I just wanted to move it to step 2. I'll choose the little triangle down here and go to move to step 2. Boom, it's gone. One thing I definitely want to move is the submit button. That's got to be on the last page, right? So let's move this over to step 3. We'll move a few more questions over to step 2, and you're starting to get the idea of how easy it is to build a fairly elaborate multi-step form. This is by far the fastest way I have seen anybody build these types of nice, fast forms. I don't have any questions on step 3. Let's fix that. All right, looking pretty good. I'm just gonna move the submit button down to the bottom and we are ready to go. Now, of course, I can check this out before I actually make it live on my website. I'll choose preview and I can see what this is gonna look like. Pretty nice. I'm going to show you the different steps. So here is step 1, on to step 2, a nice little animation when it comes in. I can add some checkboxes, choose some drop-down options. Of course, those are completely customizable. I haven't shown you them yet. And then finally, I'm on to step 3, where I can see my submit button as well as a previous button enter a phone number here. Really nice layout here where it gives me the different country codes and I can very easily type in my phone number in the correct format. Speaking of the correct format, let's go ahead and modify this a little bit. So I've got my phone number field here. I've selected it, so I've got my field settings over here to the right. I can set up the format that is acceptable to me. So input format option, I can choose this down here and you can see we've got the country code plus the actual phone number field. Now, in this case, it's done differently than I would expect because in my country, we have 3 numbers and then 3 numbers and then 4 numbers. So the formatting actually might look a little bit weird if I left it as the default. There we go, I've updated it and now it'll be in the format that I expect. And you might have different expectations depending on what part of the world that you are in and your customers are in. Now, when it comes to things like drop downs and checkboxes, I just want to show you how to add those options in because I've just got the default ones in there now. So I'll simply select it and I've got all of my active options right over here. Very easy to modify these or add additional ones in. So just hit the edit button. We can delete the ones we don't want. We can add new options and we can even group them together. So the grouping for context here, if you click on the drop down, you'd see your individual options and then maybe you have some group options together. Maybe it's a different color and then certain sizes underneath that. You can go ahead and set it up however you need. When it comes to checkboxes, we've got very similar options here. So just go ahead and select your checkbox field and then over in the settings, you can edit the options, change the labels, change the values, decide whether or not they are required or certain checkbox options are disabled temporarily, whatever you need to do. Some other nice fields that are included are a GDPR agreement similar to checkbox, but dedicated for GDPR. You don't have to do anything extra. Just go ahead and drop that in and you're good to go. Maybe update your privacy policy link. There's also a color picker option. This is great. I love this. We might want to resize it to be a little bit more contained here. But the idea with the color picker is that someone might need to choose a color design options. You're submitting information about a website design that you're asking someone to complete. Well, they can add their brand color, things like that. We've got star ratings here. We can drop that in and you can have someone submit a rating and set the number of stars to choose from. So again, we can just add in as many options as we want. You can add a slider, choose a value, and there's even a repeater field. So I can drop this in my form. And then if I want to have some user selectable options, like for example, maybe I want people to be able to add multiple text lines. So I can simply drop this in. And now if I hit update and preview this form, let's go to step 2. I've got this repeater field here where I can add in as many text fields as I need. Really great if you want someone to be able to expound upon ideas, adding multiple iterations of something, but keeping the form data a little bit more separate so it's very easy to process later on. And finally, let me demo the signature field. Getting a signature from people is super easy. Just drop it right into your form, go ahead and hit update, and then let's check this out on the front end. So here you go. This is the signature field on the preview. I'm gonna go ahead and sign using my mouse. Although if I were using my phone, it would be a lot easier to sign. There we go, everything looks good. But if I did need to try again, I could simply clear it and give it another go. In terms of accepting payments, I'm not going to demonstrate that in a lot of detail here, but you just need to know there's a separate field for each payment provider. After you've integrated your website with that payment provider, just drop the form field onto your form and it'll look something like this, where if I were to add the PayPal field onto my form, I'm automatically going to get fields for name, email address, amount due, and then the options for the person to complete the checkout. So there you go. That is Bitform, at least a decent chunk of it. This is a very powerful tool. It doesn't have to be overly complex, but the power is definitely there under the hood, which I appreciate a lot. I recommend grabbing this while it's available as a lifetime deal. I've got my link down below in the description. If you click on that, it helps support this content. My thanks again to Bitform for sponsoring today's video. If you like this video, make sure you click the like button. If you're new around here, consider getting subscribed. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this video, or if you're just new and excited to subscribe, I'd love to hear from you. My name is Dave. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next review.